Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. Hold on. I'm trying to find the music. There we go. Oh my gosh, that was too loud. Okay, guys, it is Monday, April Fool's Day. I'm not in on the April Fool's Day stuff. I do not find joy in trying to trick people. So I might make a joke here and there, but I'm not. Not really into it. Well, we'll look around at what's going on the internet, because I don't know. Here's the thing. Let me come back over here. I would not expect there to be a whole lot of activity today. You're kind of coming back from what is, I mean, nobody gets it off really, but it's kind of a holiday weekend. Everybody that I know is out on vacation. And it's Monday. So I wouldn't expect there to be a ton of activity. But if we come over here to the chart, so you can see over there in the treasuries that they are starting out on the left foot. Is it the left foot is the selling foot? I don't know. But look, there was a little bit of up action over the weekend, and they are pushing it back pretty aggressively. So I don't know if they're just gonna, oh no, wait, that's the S&P 500. Okay, here's the treasury. Treasury is coming down towards the lower end of this range, right? So I don't know if they just, maybe they tag 16 and then they're okay with it, or if there's something more to it. I mean, they sometimes on a Monday they do try and make a drive, but so that's kind of what's going on right now, and I don't know of any news or anything like that driving it at the moment. Okay, S&P, they're giving up those gains. Oil just looks incredibly bullish right now. You know, I was concerned that when they hit 80 that, you know, there might be a brief kind of push and it come back, but it's not doing it. It's staying up there, and oil is looking pretty bullish at the moment. Gold and silver, like, oh my gosh, gold looks great on Friday. Silver not as great as gold, but still pretty good. Copper a little bit up over the weekend. The Japanese yen, man, I was expecting some real fireworks last week in the Japanese yen, and when you look at the larger chart, it just looks like it's dead. So the Japanese yen, one of the most interesting charts to me. I really think this is one that we got to keep an eye on, because if the Japanese yen, you know, bases out around here and they're able to jawbone it higher, that could have pretty significant impacts on the dollar over here and then on the rest of the markets that, generally speaking, would not be very positive for us. And then Bitcoin, kind of a similar sort of a story where then you're just kind of coming back and giving up a little bit. So that's where we're at. I guess we got to keep an eye here on the treasuries to see if they're going to do anything. I wouldn't expect that they would, but you never know. Yeah, I'm just noticing here. I got like a you don't need to see the tripod in the background. We'll fix that in a second. Bloomberg, Ed Rogan's party suffers a shock defeat in Turkey's municipal elections. I didn't think that he was allowed to lose things. Okay, that's interesting. Nassim Taleb. Oh my gosh, anti-Israeli propaganda. Dude. Oh, hey, Jiwi, how's it going? On your way, on my day off? Oh, you get today off? Wow. Lucky you. Lucky. I don't want to start the week. I'm kind of woke up this morning. I felt like a brick, you know? It's like, oh, wait, it's time to wake up already? What? All right, let's do this. Good morning, Rom. Dude, Nassim Taleb, I tell you what, like, this is what politics will do to you sometimes. If you become too ideological, or you just become too narrowly focused on one issue, it just turns you into an idiot. Nassim Taleb, all he tweets about now is anti-Israeli propaganda, and it's starting to get like really, really stupid too. So this tweet that he retweeted, nothing scares Zionists more than humanizing Palestinians. Once Palestinians are seen in their humanity, it will become socially unacceptable to say you're a Zionist. It will be tantamount to saying, I'm a proud supporter of slavery. I don't know if I see anybody out there trying to say that these aren't people. Okay, but like, they're kind of like killing civilians and raping women and shit. Like, you do have to do something about that. You can't just allow there to be this giant terrorist state next to you. We used to get great content from Nassim, things to talk about statistics in the markets, and he just... nothing interesting from him anymore. Thanks for Friday's session. I found your channel through Ninja Script Reviews. Oh, hey, very good. Very good. Hoping to do more with Ninja Trader soon. I'm still kind of thinking about what I want to do for that. I spent, well, man, I had all these grand plans for the weekend, all the stuff that I was going to get done. But because I thought that I was going to be alone for the most part this weekend, but nope. Had to help my family do some things and stuff, so didn't really get to use Saturday. And then I had Sunday. I could have done anything that I wanted on Sunday, but I just kind of wasted it. It's kind of like the big, you know, things don't go your way, and then your mind just throws a fit and doesn't want to do anything, even though you could have recovered and gotten a lot done. So, but I did spend some time on the momentum video. I feel like the script still needs a lot of work. There's still a couple of spots that feel a little bit too disjointed. I don't feel like the script is engaging enough. It's super information dense, but I don't know if it's funny and interesting enough yet. So, you know, I'm hoping maybe another week or two with that to brush that script up, and then we put that out. And then, you know, I kind of have like a choice again. And one of my ideas is to make a more basic Ninja Trader video. But if I do a more basic Ninja Trader video, I'm not quite sure what I put in it. We got dog attacked on Friday. Oh my gosh, really, Uzi? Are you okay? Did you have to go to the hospital? Dog can mess you up so quick, man. I saw this one video. Somebody was like, oh yeah, this dog is always really nice to me, and then it just bit me in the face. And they were like so nonchalant about it. I was like, dude, that is not okay. That dog messed your face up. Ugh. Dog attacks can be the worst. The neighbor's dog got out and attacked. Wait, what? But you have a pretty... Wait, what kind of a dog does Uzi have? I don't remember. Was it a husky? It was a big dog. It was a dog that could handle itself. So you almost... Yeah, you have a husky. Okay, I was right. I was kind of guessing on the husky because I don't really remember. Yeah, but he's 10. Oh, wow. Well, what kind of a dog was it? What kind of a dog was it that got out? Pit bull terrier. Awful. Dude, the neighbor's dog, it's I can't remember what kind of a dog it is. It's a hound of some sort. It's a big hound of some sort. And it's mean. It's mean. But usually it's pit bulls that get out. Your script out. So you nearly killed it, and then what? Like it ran away? And how did you nearly kill it? With just your bare hands? Is this like an Uzi wrestled a pit bull with his bare hands? I don't know why, but I'm thinking in my mind about stories about bears. Apparently, bears are really good at running in straight lines, but they aren't really good at curves. So what you do is you find like a tree or something like that, and you just run around it, and then the bear kind of chases you around the tree. It feels scary. Once it got up on my dog, it went for his throat. I dove down, wrapped my arm around his neck, twisted, landed on top of it, and choke held it till my wife got back to the house. Holy crap. Wait, how long were you holding this dog for? And wait, is your dog okay? I should have, you know what? Now is this an April Fool's Day joke? This is better not be an April Fool's Day joke. I don't think that Uzi is into April Fool's Day jokes. Man, see, this is why I hate April Fool's Day, but I don't think that it's an April Fool's Day. No, I don't do that dumbass shit. This actually okay. So your dog is okay though, right? It went for the throat. Like that sounds like, jeez. Okay, by the way, you know, like I was concerned that the treasuries would start to get, you know, a little tipsy on the downside, but it looks pretty calm. I think that that this downside move was just the, you know, the algorithms turning on and saying, oh wait, our valuation is way lower, and so it just kind of fell. Because overall volume's pretty dead. I don't really see anything too interesting going on here. Yeah, I got that dog so fast, it never had a chance to... it only had a chance to land a small puncture wound. Jeez. Analyst revamps Micron price target amid surge in demand for key AI chip. Behind the success of drugs like Ozempic and Wegovy is a less noticed phenomenon. Some people don't lose much weight on them. That's interesting. Actually, yeah, I could see some people like thinking that they would lose a lot of weight on it, and they don't, because maybe insulin resistance isn't their problem. Oh, I forgot about this. Speaker Johnson says Marjorie Taylor Greene's threat to oust him a distraction. So she made the motion to remove Johnson, and they have to bring that up. But she did it like right before they were to go on recess and all of those things. So this has kind of like been a thing for like 2 or 3 weeks now. And they'll come back to it, I guess, and vote. But Democrats have been saying that they'll vote to keep him in. So I don't know. So how long did you have to hold the dog like that? And then what? Your wife came and you both tackled it? Or I still have so many questions. It felt like forever, but maybe a minute and a half. Okay. Because when you said that, I told your wife came back, like I had in my mind, like you holding this vicious animal at bay for 30 minutes, and I held it till the neighbor came over to get it. Oh, okay, wow. That's crazy. And a pit bull. Now, how mad are you at the neighbor? Because sometimes dogs just go crazy, and a dog gets out, you know. But sometimes owners are just bad owners. I don't know. Like the issue, pit bulls are a more aggressive breed of dog and are responsible for most dog attacks. But I feel like half the problem is that the people that tend to own pit bulls are stupid. I wasn't. A negligence thing. Her kid was going back inside and the dog just happened to be right there at the door. Oh, I see. Yeah. And it just made a run for it outside. That's what my dogs do. And then you have to chase it around the neighborhood. Papillons are fast. You don't want the papillon to get out. But he's getting good now. I say stay. He doesn't try and jump. Up. In terms of people who should have big dogs, single mothers who fill the man gap in their lives with dogs they can't control. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I gotcha. Man. Hey, Morgan, how are you doing? Larry H. Summers is going on something about I was very disappointed that the Harvard Law student government endorsed divesting in Israel. That's two things I've seen this morning already about Israel. Have they moved into Rafah yet? Wasn't that going to happen soon? Is this going to be another, we talk about the Middle East conflict all week sort of a thing? Hey there, found your stream by accident when investigating Dom training a bit more. By accident? Oh, okay. The algorithm wasn't just targeting you? You know what, Michael? I kind of think that if you're the right guy, that you're gonna find me one way or another. How it works. Okay, I recently got Jigsaw. May I ask why you prefer DOMs and not footprints? I tried to get into footprints for a really long time, but it never really worked out for me. And now I'm following the Axios stuff. Found your search for more DOM-related stuff. Long time Top Step TV watcher, but push their marketing partner really heavily lately. So what? Wait, who is their marketing partner that they're pushing really heavily now over at Top Step? I'm curious now. I have like the longer. It used to be, like I started out the stream, I don't think I want to do the Combine anymore. That's kind of not for me. Then it was like, I'm not going to do affiliate links for them anymore. And just as time has become on, I've become more and more anti-funded trader programs. Wall Street Academy and that stuff. Oh, okay. So an education thing. Yeah, now I'm like, like I've seen some other creators. There was one creator that he was doing a lot of like exposing other people. And, he was trying to prop himself up as like, I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm not going to sell you a hugely expensive course or any of that sort of stuff. But then he did do a affiliate link for a funded trader program. And that to me was like, okay, well, you just like anybody. Anyways, but to your question. There are some things that you can see on the DOM that you cannot see on the footprint, that you can't see any other way. It was kind of funny because I had a comment on one of my videos the other day that was talking about that. And they were like, oh, well, you can't really see this. And I was like, actually, you can't. Like, you can see things on the DOM that you can't see on a footprint chart. The thing that the DOM is not good at is helping you remember what happened in the past, right? Now, typically, I don't need a footprint to do that. Usually, the chart and cumulative delta are good enough for me to remember, like, what happened, right? We had a little move down. It was accompanied by a little bit of a volume. Now we're kind of stuck in the mud. We're getting another impulse low, but it's not that much accompanying it. So we'll see. I kind of suspect that gets stuck at 16. Okay. But what can I not see on the footprint that I can see on the DOM? Well, the key thing that I'm looking at over here is like every time that it ticks, how much does it take? So like we ticked down, there's 1,500 on the offer. If we tick back up, how many actually trades? Will it be, well, there's already 730, but let's just assume that resets. Will it take 700 or will it take 1,500? So that time overall it took 1,500 after the 700 there. So they're trading about 1,500 a clip to move up or down. Now we look at it on the other side. For them to tick down again, will it take 1,500? I would kind of suspect that it would, but we're just kind of watching that. Okay. And that actually can tell me a lot about the state of the market at that time, right? Like if it's only taking like 300 contracts to tick up and down, that's something that I really, really watch for. When it's doing that, I don't want to trade, because that means that we're probably going to get stuck. We're forming a liquidity hole, etc., right? If there's like a big imbalance, like it takes, 2,000 contracts to move one way and only 500 contracts to move another way, like that's something that I take note of. When there's a shift where like all of a sudden they're taking out 5,000, 3,000, 5,000 contracts each step of the way, like that's a really motivated seller, right? They're really pushing through the liquidity. I can't see that on the level 2. And the latent liquidity is probably the most important thing to look at, because the latent liquidity is kind of what causes some of the more interesting, empirically proven, stylized behaviors of order flow, right? Kind of will create those liquidity holes. And then when you're getting a trend, they tend to follow a square root law. So at first, the impact is linear. Like if they trade 1,000 contracts and they move up, you would think that you trade 2,000 contracts, they would move up twice as much because it's twice as many contracts. But it actually follows the square root law. So for small numbers, it's linear, but like it very quickly evens out to a square root law. And that's why a lot of these moves that you'll see, especially in treasuries, they actually kind of have this kind of curve to it, where they kind of like slowly zero in on a price. And that's because the impact of these large orders follows the square root law. And that happens because of the liquidity. Like they don't put all of the liquidity that they want to trade out there, right? They don't put it out there until it's about to trade, and then they put the liquidity out. So knowing how much traded there overall and how much trades at each clip kind of tells me what the state of that latent liquidity is. So super, super important, especially for like current conditions, right? Okay. Now, the other thing I'll tell you, Michael, is that I think it's only a part of the puzzle, right? Like, I think that we all have this idea, because this is what we were told when we were like kids in the 80s. It's like, oh, there's these people and they make money on the market. They don't even know what's going on, but they just come in and they scalp every day and they make tons and tons of money in the market. Okay, well, for one, most people, even at the time that were trying to do that, failed at doing it, right? 2, market has changed a lot. 3, the people that they were really talking about that were doing like technicals and all the, using charts and stuff like that were really more like the fund managers that were doing like momentum strategies. Okay. So our expectation is kind of like a myth, really. We kind of have to incorporate everything. So I want to know, what are the correlated instruments doing? What is volatility doing that day? I want to implement my risk management. I'm going to look for stylized behaviors of order flow, things that are proven, like the square root law, for instance. And then I want predictors of order flow, and that's the most important one. That's kind of like that's like where the real edge comes from. Is, do I know something about the flows that I expect to see that day that the market is not correctly pricing in? And it can be a different thing every day, right? Like on last week, we've got some really good examples where there was a ton of money that had to sell stocks and buy treasuries. So we were able to buy treasuries. In fact, I had a good trade last Wednesday or Thursday it was, where, you know, made a pretty decent win. And we were able to predict it well ahead of time because we knew that those funds were going to have to come in and buy, right? Now, today, a little tougher. It's a Monday, so we tend to see less activity on a Monday. They do appear to dislike the valuation that we had, where they kind of rose a little bit overnight. But there is also buying at the beginning and end of the month. So I'm going to say today things are maybe a little bit even, unless somebody starts making a big bet. Because you could see somebody come in and make a big bet short here that actually interest rates aren't going to change in June. We were getting a lot of hints of that last week, that a couple of big analysts and stuff were starting to say, well, you know what? Like, we're not even sure that the Federal Reserve will raise rates even once this year. So there could be a big sell could come through, and we would be very surprised by it, right? So that's like the really big thing. So order flow is super great, because order flow is the only way that you can really understand what's going on at that specific time. Like, what are the current conditions? But order flow on its own, very, very difficult for a retail trader to make money from. You can do it. I've seen people do it, but it's super hard. Super hard. You're competing with the robots, and the robots are really good. So you really want to have those informational inefficiencies together with it. And I think that's why a lot of people kind of struggle, because what'll happen is they'll come in and they'll focus on just like one part of that puzzle, right? They'll just focus on the price action, which I'm not even sure if there's any edge in that whatsoever. Or they'll just focus on the risk management side. They're not watching the order flow, the correlated instruments, all these other things. Yeah. The one that I always neglected when I first started was the correlated instruments, because I would come in and I would see the treasuries and it was like they would hit into 16 and it was like 5,000 contracts, and then they'd bounce off of it. Then they'd hit into 16 and it's 5,000 contracts and they bounce off of it. And then they'd come back down, and so I'd be like, oh, they're going to bounce off of it again. I can kind of see a little bit of absorption there. I'm going to take it. And then they trade 15 half on 500 contracts. And they trade 15 on 500 contracts. And they trade 14 half on 500 contracts. And I'm like, what the heck? I just lost 4 ticks all at once. On some freak move in, like, before it was so hard, they had to push through so much liquidity to move down. And now it just moves freely. What the heck? Right? And it wasn't until I developed this dollar index and I started putting up, I got like a market analyzer over here to see, other instruments, and I got a bunch of different charts here to look at kind of related instruments. It wasn't until I started to look at that I started to see, oh, okay, actually, the move is really happening in the dollar or in the Japanese yen. And the reason the treasuries are moving so easily is because the volume is really happening in the other instrument, and they're just following the correlation. And then I was able to read those moves and kind of differentiate between them and kind of figure out why something might be moving in that time. It was a completely different world, right? So don't just focus on one thing. Anyways, so that was a long... You know what? When people ask these questions, I feel like I go on too long sometimes. I hope that gave you a really good answer. So what was Uzi? We were talking about with Uzi. Thanks a lot. Very good. I'm glad you enjoyed that answer. See, a lot of people got problems going hands-on with someone else's dog. They're supposed to be our friends. F that. Your dog gets a hold of mine and I'll split its rear legs and hips like a wishbone. Man. Yeah. Big dog scares me though, man. Is 6E a viable substitute for the synthetic dollar index? Almost. So if you don't have the synthetic dollar index, and really you should, because it's, it's only $100, but I digress. If you don't have the synthetic dollar index, I think that, and you're trading treasuries, I think that you want to have 6E and 6J. The other components don't have a super huge effect. It is kind of interesting, though, because there are certain levels and things like that you'll kind of notice that they'll play with. So, like having the overall thing is together. But definitely, if you're trading treasuries, you also want to watch the 6J. Okay, 6J is very heavily correlated with ZN. It's very rare that they're like going opposite directions or that their movements aren't correlated. But we came out okay. It's been a while since I've had a ton of road rash. Good to know my old butt can still move though. Yeah. Oh man, I've been working really hard to be fully caught up on my workout program past 2 weeks, and it is just feel so exhausted all the time, you know. It's I don't want to say mentally exhausting. It's like neurologically exhausting. It's like you use up all of the chemicals that you have to make muscles contract, and your nervous system just feels depressed afterwards. Like when I'm done, I just feel dead. Okay, they did take out 15.5. It's fairly light. I'm not seeing correlation with the 6J, so here's a great example, right? The 6J came down with the initial move, but now the treasuries are starting to move a little bit further, and the 6J is not really going along with it. I am maybe seeing a little bit of a move here in the dollar, but overall nothing significant. And this was the 6J moving, right? 6J moved down, dollar moved up. Not seeing the dollar move on for another leg. And then when I come over and I look at the treasuries, I'm not going to say that that's like a ton of volume. Okay, like when they're pushing through like 5-10K orders and they just keep pushing, then that's really when it gets exciting, right? But they are trading about $2,000 each of these ticks down. So it does look like there is a large meta order short here. It was not one that I was predicting. But we might be able to jump on it if I really start to get the idea that the market thinks that interest rates need to go higher, that they're placing a real bet on, then I might want to go along with it. City and Futures, welcome. Yeah, Morgan says that's a real thing with the central nervous system. It really is. And I'm not quite sure what I need to do to help myself recover better. More sleep would help. Maybe more salt would help, but it's rough. And I have to be careful with it with trading too, because if I hit myself too hard, it can make me really, what is the word? A little bit more impulsive with the trades. Like some of my worst blow-ups have always been around competition time. So I've kind of learned to like hold back a little bit when it's a competition time. Sometimes it helps to get the workout. Well, but then I'll just be like spent all day. Okay, uptick, 3,000 contracts. So enough of a pushback. That's a little bit more like the flow that I was expecting today. Is like relatively quiet two-way trade. That's a little louder than I thought it would be, but 2,000, 3,000 contracts is not unusual, especially with the liquidity that we have these days. Yeah, because we've gotten back to normal liquidity. All right, so well, I do have. I will wait a little bit. I had a little bit that I wanted to go into a story to read that I thought was interesting, but let's spend a little bit of time browsing around, seeing if there's any additional color we can get on the market here, information that might help us. Well, on Zero Hedge, the headline story is judge orders the release of border riot migrants who overwhelmed the National Guard. That's a super crazy story to me. You know, after you come out of a holiday, you will start to see the political people kind of start to set narratives and so forth. It seems to me that squatting and illegal immigration will continue to be really big narratives on the right that are kind of dominating the discussion right now. But we'll see. Maybe they're just going off. Maybe they ain't got anything else to show right now. 50 million Americans at risk of severe weather as April oh, okay, because it's tornado season? Okay, whatever. Futures rise in first day of new quarter as gold explodes to record highs. By the way, what price are we at? 22.86, really? Because I remember when it was so hard for them to get above 2,000. I think I'm still down on my silver position, though. Unfortunately. This story looks relatively short. Let's read this. Spending, income, and inflation data do not support Fed interest rate cuts. The BEA reports real income is down, but personal spending jumped anyways. Inflation data is mostly as expected, but much higher than the Fed would like to see. Nothing about the BEA's Personal Income and Outlays report for February 2024 suggests the Fed should cut interest rates at its next meeting. Personal income increased $66.5 billion, 0.3% at a monthly rate in February. Disposable personal income less personal current taxes increased $50.3 billion. Personal consumption expenditures increased $145.5 billion, which is 0.8%. The PCE price index increased 0.3%. Excluding food and energy, the PCE price index increased 0.3%. Real DPI increased 0.1%. Real PCE increased 0.4%. The Fed wants inflation at 2%. 0.3% per month times 12 months won't come close to getting there. You can twist the analysis however you want, but you cannot twist the math. Okay. This person is not a neutral observer. Okay. Nominal spending was up 0.8% and real spending was up 0.4%. This suggests PCE inflation was on the high side of the range. Rounded to a single decimal point, the reported PCE price index month over month can be in the range of 0.25 to 0.34. The PCE price index for January was 121.906. For February, it was 122.312. That's a monthly increase of 0.33% on the high end of the range. Multiply that by 12 and you are close to 4% price inflation annually. That does not support the Fed interest rate cuts. Apartment list reports rent prices increase for the second month. Yesterday, I noted apartment list reports rent prices increase for the second month. Also note, Case-Shiller National Home Price Index hits new record high. Case-Shiller updated its home price data for January this week. Here are the key charts and a discussion of why it's hard to tell if prices are rising or falling. The Fed wants a cut in June, and that's what the market expects thanks to Fed job owning, so most likely the Fed will cut unless the data is very hot. Like Pavlov's dogs, the market is salivating over rate cuts. Yes, it is. Jeremax, where have you been? How you doing, man? Welcome back. Okay, well, that was not a very neutral article, but I think that they are pointing out something very, very important. And here's what I think is going on, is that interest rate cuts is kind of a blunt tool. So there are parts of the economy that are really struggling. Like the tech industry has just been decimated. Like, it is a recession if you're in tech. You go to all of the tech-related subreddits, and all the discussion is about how tech is oversaturated, and none of these people can get jobs, and it's just crazy. I don't know what percent. I wonder if you go and you just look at just tech or just computer science graduates, what is the unemployment rate? And what is that relative to the past? Because unemployment right now is, for the most part, down. So it's really hard to square away the experiences that I read from tech people on Reddit with like the actual reality out there right now. They gonna push down again? By the way, I should note that it does seem like well, okay, I'm seeing something really weird. Actually, I don't think I can explain that. What is going on here? When I look at the treasuries down here, I can see the spreads all rising. But on my DOM, at least here, it's been flattening. The 5-year is leading the way. So is the 5-year, is that steepener gonna get retraced by selling the 5-year and leading the treasuries down a step further? That's what they're doing at the moment. I don't know. But let's recenter things for now. There is a big order at 14. They are moving down again a lot sooner than I thought. Again, I don't see correlations involved. I do see gold moving up. So normally gold and treasuries are positively correlated, and right now they seem to be negatively correlated. So it seems like a lot of people are betting on gold that the prices of assets are going to go up, even though the Federal Reserve is cutting rates and things like that. Which does kind of suggest to me like another bout of inflation. I feel like inflation is going to shoot back up. No. I kind of suspect that, well, okay, so like there's a couple of ways of looking at this, right? I think my approach is I think that the things that are going on right now could result in some inflation. Which is to say that I think current trends are still like inflation coming back towards target, but maybe not quite getting there, right? But if you cut rates before we get there, and then the market pops off up because of that, then I think you could get some inflation. I think that there's a lot of money out there because of the pandemic. Most people spent that money, but the rich, they still have a lot of cash to burn in particular. And I think that they're going to do it by assets. So I think that you'll probably see it in different places, right? Like, I think that this time around, if we do get another bout of inflation, I think that gold will be an actual like to safety hedge, unlike in 2021, 2022. Because it's popping off right now, gold is, right? But what if they did nothing? What if they did nothing? I think that if they did nothing, I think you would probably continue to see the things just level off and come towards the target, but maybe not quite get there, or it'd take a really long time for them to get there, right? I also feel like they're going to policy hold off until Biden wins the election. Well, so explain this to me. Why do we think that Jerome Powell wants Biden to win? Why do we think that the Federal Reserve wants Joe Biden to win? I don't think they actually do. I think that there are members of the Fed board that are very liberal and kind of have a little bit of an unconscious bias that they kind of want rates to come back down. right? And that's why like the jawboning from the Fed has not been very effective, because every time that they come out and they say, well, you know, maybe not this, maybe not that, but then you get these people that their kind of propensity is to be dovish, and so the market reads that as, oh, then we make this thing up in our head, you know? I think the normalcy of the status quo is what's wanted most. Okay, hear me out. Hear me out. There is a scenario where Donald Trump being elected is more the normalcy and the status quo than what Joe Biden is doing, right? Because what Joe Biden has been doing with the economy is not normal, right? And there are a lot of very powerful forces out there that are extremely upset with how Joe Biden's presidency has gone. Of course, if Trump gets elected and we start deporting everybody, that probably won't be normal either. But outside of that, maybe Trump could actually be a little bit more normal than Joe Biden in some respects. Maybe. Because here's the thing. What's he gonna do? He can't do anything. You can't get anything passed in Congress. You know, like if President Trump does well and the Republicans do well, hey, the Republicans doing well this election season kind of means that the Senate is still 50-50 and they have like a slight advantage in the House, okay? That's still really hard to pass legislation. So the only like crazy things that'll be happening will be the things that you can do with executive orders, like you know, enforcing the law with the illegal immigration. That would be like the biggest, you know, like upset to the status quo that Donald Trump could possibly do. And beyond that, probably it turns back into what it was, where everybody just complains that something needs to happen and nothing gets done, and people speculate that Trump could do this or do that, and he never does. That to me is the status quo, you know? I know what I'm saying kind of sounds a little bit ridiculous, and I am kind of stretching it a little bit, but you know, I'm just trying to plant the seed that like maybe Trump being reelected is not such as crazy of a thing as everybody's making it out to be. They're still kind of pushing here, but they haven't gotten to 14 yet. I don't want to see what they, you know, obviously if I had taken a trade, I guess I could have taken one at 16 and it would have worked out. But now we're kind of getting to a spot that I'm concerned they could get stuck in the mud in again. I don't want to take a trade just above that. Cal is right on DJT. DJT is massively overvalued and will be the short put option trade of the century at some point. Overvalued. Why overvalued on a revenue and earnings basis? Okay, can I rant about this one? Everybody that I see out there is saying that DJT is overvalued because they do not make enough revenue to justify the price that they have. Okay, that is such a naive approach to the market. Let me tell you something, folks. Today's earning doesn't matter. Today's earnings do not matter. What matters is tomorrow's earnings, right? What are they going to make in the future? Okay, right now they only make like, you know, they've only made like $2 million or something like that in revenue. Okay, but what if, and I'm not saying I believe that this is going to happen. Okay, I don't believe this, but what are we trying to do? We're not even necessarily trying to predict what is going to happen with this company in the long term. We're trying to predict what other people are going to do. We're trying to predict what other people are going to predict. This is the beauty of the market. It's the big caveat. It's the big thing that everybody misses, but But he had it right. We're trying to predict what other people are going to do. So what are other people going to do? Or what might other people think about what the earnings could be? Well, a dyed-in-the-wool Trump supporter that's buying this stock, he might think that Truth Social will replace Twitter and will become as big as Twitter was. Okay. Well, when Twitter, before Elon Musk bought it and took it private, they were making like between $8 and $12 billion a year in revenue. In revenue, that is. Okay. So if you go and you use those kinds of numbers, okay, and you look at the price, now you've got something a little bit more reasonable. Some of the prices that we were at a few days ago were okay. The prices that they're at now are maybe too much. Okay, but that's how you have to value this thing. And then on top of that, how many people are just going to buy it? So when you've got something that's that hot and that has such a cult following behind it, I really don't think that puts make sense at all. That seems like a great way to just get squeezed, man. So I personally don't think that any of that is going to happen. It seems to me that Truth Social kind of sucks. Like the website and the stuff that they got set up isn't very good. The way that they've managed it hasn't been very good. They don't have any kind of killer feature. That's the only killer feature that they have is Donald Trump. And honestly, Trump isn't as interesting to read his tweets anymore either. I don't think that you get the same kind of cult following on Truth Social that you do on Twitter, because people don't have the tools like TweetDeck. You gotta understand, TweetDeck was such a big part of it, because I can sit on TweetDeck and I can see every tweet come as they come in, whereas on Truth Social, I kind of have to like hit F5, and it's just not the same thing. So I don't think that Truth Social will do that well. I think that they will probably benefit significantly from Donald Trump becoming president, but probably not nearly as much as the stock is saying. Okay. But other people are all in and are true believers. And when you use their kind of methods of valuing things, the success that they think the company could have, the price is not that crazy. So just throwing that out there. I don't want to be short this thing. Well, let's come and look. What do we think the chances are of BJT coming back down to earth this week? I don't know. This kind of looks like something that's just going to settle down, not something that's going to go bad. Well, let's give it a day. So let me find this thread that I wanted to find. Here we go. So I'm not going to read this whole thing. But there's one part that I want to read in particular. So this thread is on the day trading subreddit, okay, 5K at 14. Titled, "Why You Should Be Cautious of Mentors and Gurus, Even If You Think You Don't Need to Be." Too long didn't read. A lot of people in this subreddit listen to gurus known to be fraudulent, unhinged, or just plain bad. So basically, this guy is making this thread because there's still so many people that follow ICT, right? Somehow, many people still defend this decision-making. Here are some solid reasons you shouldn't, okay? And then he goes into this whole thing about why gurus are bad and so on and so forth. Okay, so he's addressing this point. It works for me, so I'll still listen to them. I see this a lot in the comments section of YouTube in this subreddit. It's a pseudo-pragmatic refutation of criticism of a guru. This has come up with ICT a lot since he's a very polarizing figure. Okay, well, first of all, I would say that some of these people are lying, and some of these people don't actually know what real long-term success means, like 5 years, okay, not just like I was profitable the last 2 months or something like that, right? And a lot of these methods are actually really just taking on risk. But I digress. It's all well and good to achieve success. It would be better if you had a better idea of what to attribute your success to. If you are following a fraud, you aren't on a stable footing. Here are some questions you should ask yourself based on what you've learned from your guru. If/when market conditions change, will you be able to adapt? Or have you inherited a flawed perspective of the markets from your guru? Okay, so I like to read this and go, okay, how would this apply if your guru is speculator Seth? Okay, so let's look at this from the perspective of you have been brainwashed by speculator Seth. Let's answer these questions. When market conditions change, will you be able to adapt? Well, I would say that speculator Seth teaches very much that patterns change and that it's very, very difficult to find a technical edge. And so we work very, very hard to try and understand the market as well as possible so that when things do change, we can be, ahead of the curve. So I think that we're pretty good on that one. And have you inherited a flawed perspective of the markets from your guru? Well, I would hope not. But the big thing is that we focus on empirical information. So if we do have a flawed perspective, hopefully at some point there will be some study or something that will, expose that particular flaw that everybody in the industry has at that time. Are you missing context similar to my heading above it? If so, could you develop your own strategy if this one stops working, or are you totally dependent on a trader? Well, speculator Seth does not give you a strategy per se. He kind of gives a template that you can use to develop your own strategy, and you need to use the information that you have and the resources that you have that are going to be unique to you to build the strategy out. And Seth hates it when you try and just follow him. How will you know when your guru decides to scam you? If you continue to listen to them, are you exposing yourself to this risk? Well, I would really hope that speculator Seth never tries to scam his audience. But how would you know? How would you know? Well, I think the way that you would know is you start saying things that are not in line with the empirical evidence. Well, as long as we always follow empirical evidence, we can know whether something is true or not, or at least that it's evidence-backed. Slightly different than the last point, how will you discern the inane, unhinged ramblings of your guru from real wisdom? Well, because if it's empirical evidence, then that's real evidence. That's real wisdom. And if it's not empirical evidence, then Seth is just spouting off his crazy political opinions again, and it doesn't matter. We can just ignore that stuff. Does your guru's wisdom come from other concepts that have existed for a long time? You could simply be reading those instead. So this is a good point. You could, if you're following speculator Seth, you could just go and read. It's buried. It's in the stack of books. You could just read Trades, Quotes, and Prices, Financial Markets Under the Microscope. That's where a lot of this understanding that I have comes from. The only thing that I have done is taken that knowledge, that empirical knowledge that has been developed over 30 years, and I have found a way to apply it to you as retail traders, to make it relevant to you, because most people don't think that it's relevant to retail traders, but it very much it is. And that's the big thing that I've contributed. Okay. So I feel like that we're pretty good on that, but it's not me. It's not me, right? What is it? It's empirical evidence. right? That's this the key thing that everybody seems to be missing is they want to make money. Okay, I'm gonna go and follow somebody else instead of like, just look at what the market actually does and let's base our trading off of like things that we can actually prove are a thing instead of like, basically following a religion. You're up 7 ticks, short ZB. Thanks to me? Well, I don't know if you can thank me because I'm still sitting here like. So I didn't want to take a trade at 14 because I was concerned that was a place that they would slow down. Well, they have started to trade a lot more liquidity through here, but they pushed through it. Was not a move that I anticipated. I guess I did kind of list it out as like, well, maybe they just really, really think that the rates need to be higher than they are. But, I wasn't confident enough in that to take a trade. I think that there were points where if I had come in neutral today that I might have preferred a long. So that might be a little bit of why I'm also a little bit hesitant to jump on this. But it does look like we got a pretty good flow through here in the treasuries. And I'm not quite sure that they're done yet either. Like, there could be a third wave here. I'm gonna think there's probably gonna be another wave. They might make another new low. There just won't be a whole lot available in that wave. So if we're gonna play that third wave, we really, really got to get a good position on it, right? Let's see here, but it is 7:35, so this is still fairly early in the session. It was 16 ticks down, by the way, too. That's pretty crazy. And what did the spreads do? The spreads are mostly flat. And the treasuries from the 16 bounce back to 19. It's about 20,000 contracts. So moderately big. Yeah, I don't think that I would be expecting like a 40, 50, 60,000 net imbalance today. Right? Because, well, it's Monday. And there wasn't like any news or anything like that. I've been, as of late, I've been way too cautious because there are certainly times when I would have taken that short. But what you gonna do? Oh, you know what? I wouldn't have even been able to because I haven't switched over my micro treasuries. Oh my gosh. I'm so stupid, guys. CL. How come that's not coming out? That's weird. Okay, hold on. I need to... I don't think that I updated my NYMEX instruments. So I need to go and download the NYMEX instruments. NYMEX. Oh no. There we go. But these ones we should be able to switch to YYJ. Okay, so with those rates coming back, I'm noting that we are still not back to 4.3, which is where we were like 2 weeks ago. Was kind of a high water mark, so. So what are they on? They're on May now with oil, right? Okay, that's better. Not a whole lot in the 30-year, unfortunately. It hasn't centered yet. Oh, geez. Down ticket 11.5. You know, it's kind of funny also that I didn't take a trade, because that whole spill that I gave earlier for Michael, you can see it so clearly now, right? Like, it was slow. It was, you know, it wasn't really doing anything. And now they're pushing through 5K orders. So, like, the limit orders aren't pulling out of the way, but the sellers are extremely motivated. And they just crush right through it. And it does look like we are getting the third leg without any real pause or anything either. They're just going for it. So that's this. I'd say this trend is really quite something else when you look at the whole thing. In fact, let's come and look at it on the volume profile. How significant is it on the volume profile? Okay. Well, they're right at like what I would say are some critical levels. So okay, so we are like below the Federal Reserve meeting levels now, right? See, my take on this, these days right here, let's say these 3 days right here in particular, was like end of month rebalancing, buying from end of month rebalancing. These days, I don't know. You know, this day I thought when it came up and it came back down, I thought, okay, this is fine. And then this, I was like, I don't get this day. I didn't like that one. Okay. Then I understood this. So now, are they coming in and they're saying, well, I do want to go short because I don't think that the Federal Reserve is going to cut rates this year, but I don't want to do it at the end of the month. So now that it's Monday, they're coming in hard. That's kind of what I suspect is going on. That's a speculative trade. So that's a flow that would be very difficult for us to predict. But we could suspect that it's there and go along with it, and we kind of did, but I just didn't have the guts to take it. I think I'm embellishing a little bit on this one though, because there's definitely been some where like I kind of said this is going to happen and then I didn't take it and we missed it. This one was so tepid. I don't know if what I said at that time could really count as, you know, I kind of thought it was going to come and I didn't have the guts. Nah, because I thought that we were more likely to be relatively quiet. This is much larger of a trend than I had ever expected to see on Monday. So there's still pretty good pressure. Do you see right here that offer is pretty big? That offer is pretty heavy, and this bid is not pulling at all. So they're probably going to force them to trade through it again. Now, we'd be careful, because if we do get a tick up through something like that, like this one, if they tick up, that's going to be like 7,000 contracts. But that could be enough to kind of like blunt the momentum. I predict the 40 minutes chop will be right when I get home from work. Yeah, probably. I do still think that, so like I said, we were at 12. We were at 12 and I said, well, maybe we'll get a third leg, but it will probably be a smaller one. It might be right here. Because this is exactly the point where it's like, okay, I guess we have to get in, and then that's the end of it, right? At the very least, probably will be some technical flow coming in around in this area. Somewhere around in here, I bet you that there'd be a little bit more liquidity. Or at the very least, profit taking, let's say. And then we just have to see how motivated the seller is. I mean, if this guy needs to sell like 100,000 contracts, then they're just going to blow through any level that we can possibly put up, right? Yeah, they put 21,000 contracts. That was pretty quick. Okay, so they did tick up, and then they ticked up at 11.5. So if I had held that short, I'd probably be taking it off right now. That would be my spot. That would be where I'm like, okay. It looks like somebody that was really big that was selling got his fill. And that might stop it a little bit. Ah, yes, you're right. We do have PMIs. Good observation. How did I miss that? Okay, well, the S&P manufacturing PMI was weaker than anticipated, 51.9 versus 52.5. I don't think that one is affecting the market, but we do have the ISM at the top of the hour. Oh man, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, Seth, you're just going on autopilot and you're forgetting everything that you're supposed to be doing. So we haven't even written our notes. Oh, wrong ones. Notes. Stream logs. There we go. Okay. Monday flows tend to be slow. Beginning of month flows tend to be long. Possible speculation short. What the hell? That was weird. Holy shit. ISM PMIs. How would you know if you're a guru is misleading you? Okay. It's kind of funny how sometimes when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna write this, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna answer this question, I'm gonna go and do this thing, and that's when they kind of move, is like when I'm not like actively with my finger over it, you know? that drop from 11 to 8 was spectacular. Okay, so then here's the big question. Was low volume? Yeah, well, let's say I wouldn't say low volume. I would say mixed volume. It was actually quite a decent amount of volume, but there was almost as much buying in there as there was selling. So now the big question is the ISM number going to be super strong? Because that would be my first question, is this all just front-running ISM? If it's not just front-running ISM, then I don't know what's with this. But what I will say is, this is a significant move, and I think it shifts the market substantially. I think that we're seeing something that we've wanted to see for quite some time, right? Which is that the market is too hot, and the interest rate markets, what they're doing just does not make sense given the economic strength that we're having. Maybe you can justify it when you come in and you say, well, they're going to run the economy hot for Joe Biden's sake. But it's starting to get to the point where I'm not sure that they could credibly do that. Okay, so you are getting a lot of volume and back and forth at 08.5, so that's a potential liquidity hole. They have not been pausing at all this whole move, though, so we got 10 minutes. Oh boy, here's the data that TikTok collects on its users. Here's what TikTok collects: your name, age, username, email, password, phone number, location, content of messages, where they're sent, received and read, and by whom, text, images, and videos on your clipboard. Purchase information, including payment card numbers, shipping, billing, and shipping addresses, a user's activities on other websites or apps or in stores, including the products or services purchased online or in person. Oh, is that why when I load up Helldivers that TikTok immediately starts showing me Helldivers content? It knows what I'm playing. File names and types, keystroke patterns, and rhythms. Your IP address, mobile carrier, time zones, model of your device, information about videos, images, and audio, objects, and scenery that appear in your videos, including tourist attractions, shops, or other points of interest. Biometric identifiers such as face prints and voice prints, cookies that collect, measure, and analyze which web pages users view the most and how they interact with content. Yeah, so basically they collect what most big companies collect. No shocker there. Yeah. Well, the big thing was that everybody was saying that like the app is recording your video and analyzing your facial reactions to it or something like that. I don't think that's what it is. So here's my crazy theory. It's not a crazy theory. It's a super mundane theory. Here's my super mundane theory about how TikTok is so effective. TikTok optimizes for things like time of day, time of the week. So it knows that you tend to go to the gym at 5 o'clock every day. And so it shows you gym content at that time of day. It knows that if you're on the phone at 11 o'clock at night, that you're feeling kind of lonely and that you need some thirst traps. That's why TikTok is so addictive. Just because it changes the type of content that it's showing you based on the time of day, and it recognizes your patterns based on time. Super mundane theory. Tell you what, man, I'm super excited for these PMIs. Of course, we could be wrong. It could have nothing to do with the PMIs and just somebody wanted to go short, and then the PMIs are going to come out and they're going to be like retardedly weak. Like ISM manufacturing prices paid comes out to be 49 versus an expected 52.9. And then the market retraces this whole thing. That would be wild. The wildest trade. By the way, while we're here, make sure my laptop is on. All the same stuff Meta collects? Probably. There was not that. I was hoping for the, when I clicked on that story, I was hoping for the, everybody's saying that China is, collecting this information that's like super sensitive or whatever, and nah, just what Facebook. So basically, TikTok is just like Facebook, except for that they're working with the Chinese government instead of the American government. Gotcha. This is kind of threatening, like they're going to go again before the news, but that one might be a trick. I'm going to hold off.
Block sell.
Good grief, man. Block sell 2 minutes, 90 seconds before. Somebody really wants to be short going into this news, man. Man, I haven't been this excited for a data point in a long time. This is getting a little wild. We really want to pay attention to that prices paid number, okay? Okay, 1 minute before they are pulling. Gonna clear the DOM here. Okay, so we got 50 spot 3 versus an expect. Oh, ouch. Yes. Prices paid 55 spot 8 versus 52 spot 9. And new orders index 51 spot 4 versus an expected 49 spot 8. So they expected new orders to be a contraction and it was an expansion. Construction spending was down spot 3% versus spot 7% though. So those are all pretty strong numbers. Definitely, I don't know if those are strong enough to justify the trend that we saw before this, but they are strong, and it did move the market down even further. So what a move. And the dollar is just rocketing out of here. Look at that. Look at the dollar go. Interestingly enough, the gold is giving up its gains here, and the Japanese yen is getting crushed. Oh, interesting. Okay, so something we've got to keep an eye on here. Oh, I don't have it open. Hold on a second. Come over here. So here's the Japanese yen. Continues to be very much south. So I know that these are some prices that they have been at before on the Japanese yen. Where intervention has come in before. I think this right here was intervention, wasn't it? I don't even remember anymore. I think this was some intervention. So I think I've got to be cautious here. You read that and you might think, oh, okay, this is like a trend day. Let's just sell it wherever. I'll be very surprised if they continue all the way down to like 10 right now without stopping. I think that there's probably going to be a significant pullback along the way. And we should be cautious about Japanese yen intervention here. normally when a move like this happens, I'm like, well, they front ran it, but maybe somebody just was using the public data that they had to know what the number was likely to come out to and things like that. But I don't know why, but for some reason, I really feel like that something shady was going on here today. The aggression they traded this with is incredibly unusual. This seems like a pretty major narrative change happening. Do you have No, I don't. No. I've looked at it and thought about it, but ultimately hasn't done anything with that. Because I am starting to get to the point where it turns into like, pay your kids a certain amount, you know, and then that's all tax free and whatnot. But it's not quite a big enough deal for that to matter. I think that if something crazy happened and like the YouTube channel took off for some bizarre reason, you know, and we're making a lot of money off of that, then maybe I would do something like that. I would start paying my kids a salary and then have them put that money into custodial accounts of some sort or something like that. Wouldn't it be good for the baby to get an early start? Yeah. But what I'm doing right now is I'm focusing on trying to get as much as I can into my IRA. So I've actually, I feel so weird about bragging about this sort of a thing, but I have fully funded my IRA, my Roth IRA 2 years now. And that I've already filled it this year is pretty cool, right? Because you can use that for education expenses. And that's like my biggest concern right now with inflation and everything else, is that the cost of a good education will just continue to rise. So I'm really working hard to save up money so that my kids can afford to go to school. Okay, they are a little stuck here at 04. And the definition of a good education will continue to fall, perhaps. I tell you, I ain't, paying for them to go to school to go to, like, into the humanities or something like that, right? You held that through the news, Morgan? My goodness. My goodness. Oh, it was a sim trade? Still, I don't know if I would, even on a sim trade, if I would have held that through the news or not. I guess if I had so much baked into it, maybe I would have. Yeah. I think though, looking back on today, I feel embarrassed, and I should feel embarrassed. because I didn't come in and start taking my notes. I didn't notice that there was a PMIs today. I thought that it was just a nothing Monday, that there wouldn't be anything interesting going on. And that ISM was totally front running the ISM. I think. I kind of suspect that like the ISM number leaked or something, because like really, this was like the aggression with which they sold that was super crazy. If you were selling into a news event like that, you would have to know that even after you sold it so much that it was going to just drop even further, you know? And I haven't necessarily, so like look at the chart on it. Oh my gosh, this is crazy.
Block sell.
Look at this. Okay, so before we were kind of looking at this and we were like, this is 20, 30,000 contracts. That's pretty big. And then we sold another 20,000 all at once. That's insane. And there's still a lot of volume trading over there too, by the way. So they knew, then they didn't just know that the number was going to be bad. They knew that the number was going to be bad enough that even after the news was released, that there would be a huge down move right there like that. Like, wowzer. I've definitely seen some moves where it's kind of felt like the market knew what was coming, that the market was sniffing out the number before it hit, and you saw strong flows, and they predicted exactly what was going to happen when the release. But I don't think I've ever quite seen it like that. And while I was showing you the chart there, they've taken another 3 ticks. So it really perks my interest, because what I'm seeing doesn't just feel like that they sniffed a number out. It also feels like that the market is like taking it like a fundamental shift. That they're saying, oh, you know what? No way the Federal Reserve can cut rates in June now. The whole thing is shifting. The only caveat I'd put on there, though, is that the S&P 500 was not that damaged from it. I gotta remember that today is April Fool's Day. I'm already seeing stuff that's like trying to trick me here. The guys over on the Helldivers developers are definitely doing April Fool's Day jokes. boy.
Block sell.
Okay. Whoa. Dude. There was a 3,500 and a 3,900 lots that both just smashed into 03. Trying to clear it. They're trying to clear it, and there was iceberging there. Okay, uptick. That's probably... now I'm definitely taking the contract off, right? SPOO and NQ, yeah. So the dollar... you know, that move on this chart looks like insane, but like in the bigger picture of things, I don't think that move in the dollar is actually that big of a deal. Like, let's come back over here to our daily chart with the 6J, because we also have the dollar on there now. And you can kind of see, okay, well, we broke through the high from like last week, coming up now to some highs that are about 105.6. So, you know, this is not actually a huge move in the dollar yet. But the equity market seems relatively unbothered so far. I kind of suspect that they'll soldier on and maybe a little bit later on start to experience some weakness. Because what's going to happen? The Treasury's made this huge move. People are going to get talking, and then they're going to start saying, like, actually, you know what? I think 0 rate cuts this year. 0 rate cuts. And when the market shifts to 0 rate cuts, the S&P 500 will be very upset. And if they shift from rate cuts to, I think they will have another hike, then they'll start puking, right? Okay, so again, at 03, there was some really big transactions. We did kind of sort of bounce, but we're right back at it. If they clear that 03 and start trading 02 half, I think you could see a pretty spectacular stop run, but I'm betting that does not happen. I don't know if it makes sense to do the hero trade here, but okay, so they're trading it. I'm not seeing stops yet. It was pretty across the board that all the currencies moved on it. Hold on, my dogs are barking. I'm gonna go check and see what they're doing. Oh, geez. I step away for like a second and it just keeps going, man. It just keeps going. This is, I don't know. So if I'm an S&P 500 trader, at what point do I start to panic? Like, how far can interest rates rise in a day before you should start panicking? Remember what I was saying earlier? I was like, well, we're not to 4.3 yet. We're right back there. So now above 4.3, stuff starts getting real. Coming over here to the daily chart. If we were to, well, man, there's no way. There's no way. Okay, but there is like this low down in here, like around 109.24, which is still a ways down there. Okay. Let's make a little mark here. Okay. Below that, then it's like all bets are off, right? All bets are on, actually. This is actually what it means. Like, that's when you would probably start to have full on momentum short. Man. There's still a lot of volume trading here. Like, look at this iceberg on the offer. Oh, I never switched back over to here. Why is it that like 3 hours after waking up, my throat starts to get a bunch of gunk in it and stuff? Super annoying to me. I don't know if, I tell you what, this is kind of looking to me. I don't know if they go down the whole session, but this does not look like something that is going to bounce to me. It's really wild to think that 16 was the spot where I was first like, I could have taken a trade. Now that we're at 14 and 12, I don't want to. Because, like, good grief, that went. And what was it? Where were we before the news? 08? Before the news, we're 08. That's just so nuts. Don't jinx it. Because I said that it's just going to rest there, then now there's going to be this massive... Oops, I did not mean to do that. I'm just going to... I misclicked there. It was a sim, so it's fine. Okay, now the S&P 500 is starting to react, coming below 5,300. BOC, is that Bank of Canada Consumer Survey expectations for 5-year inflation have risen to 3.12 from 2.62. Consumers think interest rates will decrease over the next 12 months. If interest rates do not decrease over the next 12 months, that's going to be a pretty massive shift to people's expectations, right? We could be seeing the beginning of a massive shift to expectations this year. It's just one move, so I don't want to oversell it, but this was a significant move for sure. And if we go back into that, if at the end of the year that ends up being the case, that we didn't cut rates at all, I think we will look back at today as like the day that was like, man, that was the trade. No, go check on my dogs again. All right. The Economist tweets, China's banks are being forced to reveal the scale of their bad debt problem. The country's new banking regulator seems to be taking the concealment of loans more seriously than its predecessors. Pretty significant departure from the People's Bank of China telling the entire banking system that the defaulting local government financing vehicles, a $13 trillion equivalent market, should be classified as normal and will not affect their bank ratings when reviewed by the PRC government. Let's see here. Trump's media company falls after raising going concern doubts. Shares of Trump Media fell 15% on Monday after it raised doubts that the parent firm of Truth Social platform might not be able to meet its financial liabilities. Day after completing its merger with blank check firm Digital World Acquisition Corp. What? Really? Well, that's funny that after trying to explain, you know, how you don't really want to try and value this on current earnings, and then a news story comes out today that completely changes things. Okay, you know what? That's not that bad of a share. That really feels like clickbait. But let's read the story anyways. Shares of Trump Media and Technology Group fell over 15% on Monday after it raised doubts that the parent firm of Truth Social platform might not be able to meet its financial liabilities. As of December 31st, 2023 and 2022, management had substantial doubt that TMTG will have sufficient funds to meet its liabilities as they fall due, excluding liabilities related to promissory notes previously issued. Well, that was like 3 months ago. Are you kidding me? That's what they're trying to job on. That feels to me like somebody is short and they are trying to make something happen. But if that's all they get is that 15%, then people will just pile back in the next day and squeeze the shorts. Not saying buy it or buy the dip or like hang on if you're in it or anything like that. Just to be clear, but there does feel like some shenanigans with that story. It's not that doesn't quite fit. Now, meanwhile, over here in the treasuries, no new low yet, but awfully heavy. Lots of bid liquidity below us. A little bit more thick than usual below us. I've always kind of thought, oh, you have a big move and then there should be a spot where the people take the profits and like kind of stops it, and like would they put their limit orders out there and that sort of a thing. And I've always kind of thought about it and theorized about it, but I never got a clear, kind of situation where it really does seem like you could say that's what's happening. So in this situation, I wonder why such thick liquidity below us now. Does that support us? I guess we'll see. There's these market orders are still awfully aggressive. Like, look, they just traded 6,000 just like that at 0.5. Remember I said I think that there might be a little bit of a bounce before they get to 10? Well, I think that's going to be wrong. They're just selling it, man. And they're not stopping. It's been the whole session. I feel so dumb. You know what? Better to have been on the sidelines and missed this than to have been trying to fade it, right? But they have not stopped selling this the whole session. It did take them a little bit. I mean, there was like that 30-minute period or so at the beginning where they didn't really do anything, but since then, it's just been sell. And SPOOs have gotten a little bit weaker. It's still nothing crazy, but... And the big iceberg got the 0.5 too. And maybe the parties find the... I don't know, man. I don't think it is. I think there's a lot of liquidity there between 0.1 and 10. And I think they're going to get filled. When you get really close to a big number like that, sometimes that just kind of becomes a magnet, you know? Like... how much do you think that this guy has to fill? Because they are now net 60,000 contracts short. Okay, so So once you're getting into like above 30,000 contracts, those are the wild moves. There is no way that I would have ever guessed that we would be at 50,000 contracts net today. Like, you rewind it, and I remember me talking about it. I was like, 20,000? Well, that's pretty significant, especially for a Monday. I don't know if we'll get more than that, right? It's big. It's a big move. So once you're at that point, there's no way for me to really guess how far it will go. Because I've seen them do 100,000, 200,000 before. And that is something that will just trend all day. And the wild thing about this move is that, you know, you should see the square root law. And I'm not really seeing that. It should be like, you know, they kind of settle out and it does that. But so far it has not done it. It just keeps selling. Why would anybody trade this action? There's absolutely no way to read it correctly. Well, I don't know about that, man. You know, it comes back to, well, they could be, maybe they've wanted to be short ever since the Federal Reserve meeting. You remember there was that little bit of that short after the Federal Reserve meeting? But then it was end of month flows. So these could be shorts that have been like waiting for a week to come in and short it. And if you know that that's what's coming through, yeah, like that's the thing, is if your assumption is that today is going to be a trend down day, it is the easiest thing in the world to trade. Because number one, we haven't had a meaningful pullback of more than 4 ticks this entire regular session. Okay, so if you have a 4-tick stop, it does not matter where you went short, you would have made money and you would not have gotten stopped out. And it will give you all of these nodes. There's these nodes you can go off of these high volume spots. You can go as she goes, that when they break through these, those would have worked. You can take the after she goes, as you see them continuing to absorb at the lows. Those all would have worked. And then all you had to do was say, I'm going short today, for whatever reason, even if you were completely wrong about the reason why, right? The hard part is getting over, if I sell here with everyone else, it's going to turn into the low of the day. That's not what I thought you were going to say. I thought you were going to say, the only thing is getting over the, I'm really concerned about it reversing here or pulling back too strongly, right? Because really all you had to do was sell it. I could have sold it. This is like the 4th big downtrend that I've missed. I think that trends are often catch you by surprise, so maybe it shouldn't surprise me that I miss a lot of really big trends. But this one is really, truly spectacular, isn't it? Yeah, if you sell the low with real money, it'll go through the reversal and retrace 75% of the range. I mean, that's what scares me. I have definitely been traumatized, man, because when there's a move like this, all that's going through my head is all of the times when I thought that it was a trend down day and the thing completely retraced on me. Because I can think of many, many times where I caught a trend like that. And I'm like, I could just hold this. I should be able to just hold this for a long, long time. And then it retraces and I take it break even. That happens so often. And it might not even be that day. It might be like the next day, but still. Because it happens 99 times out of 100, and the only time it doesn't happen is when you don't do it. Maybe. That one is probably a attention bias. But it does seem to me that when you get a really big move, that it does retrace more often than not. I could be wrong about that, but I feel like it does retrace a lot. Like if it doesn't retrace that day, it retraces several days later. I'm talking about the action since the news. Yeah, well, since the news, I guess you could have made it from 04, but you're right. It's been much worse action since then. I mean, I don't know. I do think that there are some signs of like the square root law coming into effect. It's just the seller is so strong that it hasn't resulted in any kind of like pullback whatsoever. So how much time have we got left? 10 minutes? So, something I was just thinking about right there, just to show you how ADHD I get sometimes. I was thinking about this whole idea that inflation will either have a very difficult time coming back to target, or will reignite again. And what are some reasons why inflation might reignite? And on the kind of more like political conspiracy theory side, if inflation continuing to rise and causing a problem this year was not a real possibility, Democrats would not be spending so much time talking about price gouging right now. I still see so much content and hyperventilating about that these big corporations are just price gouging us. Inflation's not real, it's just corporations. The only people who don't miss the big trends are the ones who create them. No, that's not true, though, Chewy. We really want to catch the big trends. That's when there's a huge meta order and it's coming through. That's the move that we want to be on. I think if it had not been a Monday, maybe I would have taken something in there. But trend is the place where we as a retail trader have the greatest edge. Especially if you know that the trend is coming. Because these guys, like, they can't just sell one contract wherever, right? For that to make a difference to these guys, they have to trade like hundreds of thousands of contracts, right? And meanwhile, that's going to move. Every move that it ticks down is just pushing their average further and further down, which is not good for them. And meanwhile, you can just take a trade in anywhere that you want. So this is the one place where being small provides an explicit edge. We want to be in on those trends. We want to be in on those trends. We're not going to catch every one. At the very least, you don't want to be trading against a trend like that, right? $15K bought at 0.5, but still $15K sold on offer. It's pretty wild to see the amount of net volume down here trading and it just continue to sink, all right? Well, it's about time for us to get going. It's definitely slowed down. Maybe the square root law is coming in. You know, it would be hilarious if that's where it turned and they never touched 10. If they came that short of 10, that would be really funny. Because they love to get those huge numbers. So for them to get that close on such a strong trend and not get it would be awfully funny. Dude, the knives are out for Truth Social today, man. The shorts are playing. Truth Social lost 58 million in 2023. That's not new information. It's crazy. Now take a look at your history and see how many of them you have caught. Oh, dude, I am not as good at it as I used to be. I remember when I first started this stream, I caught some of the best trends. You got to remember that my tendency is I always want it to trend. I always err on the side of it trends instead of mean reverting, which is not what it does most of the time. But what happens when you do that is that you are much more likely to be involved when there is a trend. This is why I get so FOMO when there's a trend without me, because I'm usually pretty good at being on board. But lately, I've been super way overly cautious this year. Because there's been probably the last 3 or 4 trends that, I've kind of sat on the sideline through. I know. Another thing, we're in the era of mean reversion, though. Are we? Are we? How would you quantify that? You know what I think happens? Here's what I think happens. I think that most retail traders are trying to use price action and all of these sorts of things. And price action does kind of involve like price reverting on itself. It's kind of a mean reversion sort of a thing. So the retail traders all get super tilted and upset when you get a trend day because they miss it or they get destroyed on it, right? These are the days where your algorithm tries baiting it every time and you just get destroyed and you lose more than in one day than you've made all year, right? If you're trading it discretionary, you know that those sorts of things happen and you kind of know the situations when it could happen. There was no way that I would have predicted that this had happened, but I did kind of say, like, it is a possibility, right? Like, I put it out there several times and dismissed it, saying, like, well, maybe they want to take the bet here. Maybe they're front-running ISM. Like, there is a situation here where even though it's Monday and all of the other things going against it, where it could trend really hard. Like, I knew that was a possibility. And when you're trading your technical strategies, what your technical strategy says is, no, that doesn't happen. That when that happens, it's better to trade against it. And that's why we get screwed over from it. Square root law is my new favorite law, and autocorrelation is now in second place. There you go. I think that's the way it should be. Well, and the only reason the square root law is number one is because it's so much more puzzling and interesting. It took us a really long time to figure out why the square root law happens. I also think it kind of explains why markets work the way that they do, because the square root law is kind of a mean reversion thing. But square root law, the gist of the square root law is that an instrument can only move so far in most situations. There is a point at which the meta order gets so large that the market becomes unhinged. I don't think that has happened in this case, but it can happen that where the market just becomes completely unhinged. And so that means it is kind of a little bit of a mean reversion a little bit. But then you can also see how, like, the market still has a tendency to trend, and it can go back and forth between those. And it's not, because when you're looking at it from a mathematical perspective, it's puzzling. It's like, why is it like that? But when you look at it from an informational perspective, it's just like, well, no doubt, because somebody sold it. You're trolling a little bit. I know how you do well. Oh, thanks. Well, I hope that you've been doing okay with family and all that. Family and work. Maybe they will touch the 10. No, it's time for me to go. It's more likely than not that they touch 10, but they are having an awfully hard time getting it. What a day. I am glad that I did not take a trade, because if I had faded that, I would be so pissed off, right? But I really enjoyed watching that. Even though I didn't make any money off of it. And it makes me really, really excited about what might be ahead of us the next month or two. All right, let's name this. I'm going to go for the clickbait title and say, did ISM leak? Because kind of feels like ISM leak. Massive trend day. It was, even if this doesn't end up being a pure trend day, for the purposes of us in this session, it was a classic trend day. Okay, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Stay